Imagine walking into a battlefield blindfolded. Sounds terrifying, right? Now consider your digital systems in the same scenario, facing potential threats without any defense. In our world today, the digital landscape is a battlefield. Every day, countless cyber attacks are launched with the intent to breach, steal, and create chaos. But fear not, for there are ways to defend your systems and data. Welcome to the world of penetration testing, your digital armor. I'm Sri Ramachandar Bandi, a senior cybersecurity consultant, and I'm here to guide you through this intricate maze of ethical hacking. In this video, we'll discuss what penetration testing is, why it's important, and how it's done. We'll dive deep into the process, from defining the scope and conducting reconnaissance to vulnerability analysis and exploitation. We'll also talk about the crucial steps that come after: documentation, reporting, remediation guidance, and follow-up. So strap in and get ready to understand how to fortify your digital fortress against potential enemies. Welcome to Penetration Testing, the Ethical Hacking Guide. Have you ever considered how secure your system truly is? It's a question that keeps many of us up at night in this age of digital interconnectedness. Well, there's a way to put those fears to rest, and it's called penetration testing, or as some like to call it, ethical hacking. At its core, penetration testing is a simulated cyber attack on a system, network, or application designed to identify and exploit security vulnerabilities. It's like a staged break-in to see how well your security measures hold up and where the weak spots are. Think of it as a fire drill for your digital fortress. The goal of a pen test is not just to expose vulnerabilities, but to provide insights into how these weaknesses can be exploited by malicious attackers. By launching these controlled cyber attacks, organizations can assess how well their security measures hold up under pressure. It's about testing the strength of the defenses and then using that information to fortify the weak spots. Penetration testing isn't just about finding holes, it's about understanding how those holes can be leveraged by an attacker. It's about thinking like a hacker, to beat the hackers. In the hands of security analysts and IT professionals, a pen test becomes a powerful tool to proactively safeguard an organization's digital assets. And it's not just about systems and networks. Pen testing applies to applications too. In fact, with the rise of web-based services and cloud computing, application security is becoming a crucial part of the cybersecurity landscape. But remember, penetration testing is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process of testing, analyzing, fixing, and retesting. It's about staying one step ahead of the bad guys in a digital world that's constantly evolving. So, whether you're a small business owner looking to protect your digital assets or a security analyst working to safeguard larger networks, understanding the process of penetration testing is essential. After all, you can't defend against a threat you don't understand. Understanding the process of penetration testing is the first step towards ensuring your system's security. And that's what we're here to explore. Let's dive in. Before we dive in, we need to set the boundaries. Just as an artist needs a canvas, our penetration test requires a well-defined scope. This is the foundation upon which we build our entire operation. The scope of a penetration test clearly outlines the systems, networks, and applications that will be put under our microscope. It's like drawing a map of where we're going to hunt for potential vulnerabilities. For instance, let's say we're conducting a penetration test on a company's e-commerce website. Our scope would include the web application, the database, and the associated infrastructure. By specifying these elements, we're setting clear parameters for our test. We're not just blindly poking around, we're strategically probing specified areas. This approach ensures that our test is both comprehensive and focused. We can efficiently identify and exploit vulnerabilities within the defined perimeter. Remember, a well-defined scope sets the foundation for a successful penetration test. Now that we've set our boundaries, it's time to gather some intel. Picture this. You're a detective, and your mission is to uncover the hidden vulnerabilities in a system. But before you can do that, you need to gather as much information about your target as possible. This is the phase we call reconnaissance, and it's all about collecting valuable data to understand the target environment better. In the world of ethical hacking, there's a vast array of tools at our disposal for this very purpose. For instance, Nmap and Shodan are two popular tools used in this phase. Nmap, or Network Mapper, is a free and open source tool that allows us to discover hosts and services on a computer network. It's like a flashlight in the dark, revealing the open ports, services, and other juicy bits of information hiding in the network. On the other hand, Shodan is like a search engine for internet-connected devices. It can help us uncover devices like routers, servers, and even IoT devices that are connected to the internet. It's a powerful tool to understand the online presence of the target organization right from the comfort of our workspace. The information we're looking for during reconnaissance can range from IP addresses and domain names to network topology. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, where each piece of information provides a clearer picture of the target environment. This intel is invaluable when it comes to identifying potential attack vectors and planning our next steps. But remember, while we're gathering all this information, it's essential to respect the boundaries we set during the scope definition. We're ethical hackers, not cyber criminals, and it's important to maintain that distinction. Always make sure your actions are legal and within the agreed-upon boundaries of the penetration test. Once we've collected enough data, we're ready to move on to the next phase. It's like we've just finished our detective work, and now we're ready to start probing for vulnerabilities. The reconnaissance phase sets the stage for the rest of the penetration testing process. It's the foundation upon which we build our attack strategy, and it's the key to a successful penetration test. With enough information at hand, we can start probing for vulnerabilities. Armed with our intel, we can now start looking for weak spots. This is the stage of vulnerability analysis, the third step in our penetration testing journey. So what is vulnerability analysis all about? It's the process of identifying and analyzing vulnerabilities in the target system, network, or application. Think of it as being a detective in the world of cybersecurity. You're searching for the chinks in the armor, the loose bricks in the firewall, the weak links in the chain. These vulnerabilities are potential entry points for malicious attackers, so finding them is of utmost importance. You might be wondering, how do we actually find these vulnerabilities? Well, we have a range of tools at our disposal. Automated vulnerability scanners like Nessus or OpenVAS are often the first port of call. These powerful tools can scan a system, network, or application, looking for known vulnerabilities. They're like a metal detector sweeping a beach, beeping whenever they find something of interest. However, while automated tools are incredibly useful, they're not infallible. They can sometimes miss vulnerabilities or raise false positives. That's why manual verification is so important. This involves a human, yes, that's right, a human, checking the results from the automated scan and verifying them. It's a bit like checking the metal detector's findings to ensure it's not just picking up an old soda can. Manual verification can also involve a more in-depth analysis, trying to exploit the vulnerabilities to assess their real-world impact. This is the equivalent of taking our metal detector's findings and assessing their value. Is it a priceless artifact or just a rusty old nail? By combining automated scans with manual verification, we can paint a comprehensive picture of the target's vulnerabilities. This gives us a clear idea of where the target's defenses are weak and where an attacker might strike. Identifying vulnerabilities is a critical step, but exploiting them is where the real test begins. It's time to put our findings to the test. Now we delve into the heart of penetration testing, the exploitation stage. This is where the rubber meets the road. All the information gathered, all the vulnerabilities identified, it's time to see what these potential weaknesses can actually allow us to do. In the exploitation stage, we actively attempt to exploit the identified vulnerabilities. This could mean gaining unauthorized access, extracting sensitive data, or performing actions that should be beyond our reach. For instance, if we've discovered a SQL injection vulnerability in a web application, we might try to exploit it to extract confidential information from the database. It's not just about finding cracks in the armor, it's about seeing how deep these cracks go. But our journey doesn't stop at successful exploitation. We venture into the post-exploitation stage. Here, we assess the extent of the compromise. We ask ourselves, what more can we do with the access we've gained? Can we pivot to other systems? Can we escalate our privileges? Can we maintain persistent access? Let's illustrate this with an example. Suppose we've gained initial access to a system through a weak password. Now we're in. But we're not satisfied with just that. We look around, we probe. We find that due to a misconfiguration, we can escalate our privileges and gain administrative access. Suddenly, we're not just an intruder. We're an intruder with the keys to the kingdom. This is why the exploitation and post-exploitation stages are crucial. They reveal the true impact of the vulnerabilities we've identified. They show us what a malicious attacker could really do. It's not enough to know that a door is unlocked. We need to know what lies behind that door and what it could mean if the wrong person walks through it. In the world of ethical hacking, it's all about understanding potential threats, pushing boundaries, and gaining insights. It's about turning what-ifs into what is. Ultimately, successful exploitation can reveal just how deep a security flaw can go. What good is a test if you don't document the results? It's a question that underlines the sixth step of penetration testing: documentation and reporting. Now, it's time to record our findings and share them in a clear, understandable manner. Documentation is the backbone of any penetration test. It's where we detail the steps we took, the vulnerabilities we exploited, and the potential impact of such weaknesses. Think of it as a travel diary of our journey through the system, network, or application. It's an account of what we saw, what we did, and what we found. For instance, if we discovered a SQL injection vulnerability in a web application and managed to extract sensitive data, we'd document the entire process. We'd note down the tools we used, the methods we employed, and the results we achieved. We'd also record any other vulnerabilities we found, no matter how minor they seemed. But it's not enough to just jot down our findings. We need to analyze them and understand their implications. How severe is each vulnerability? What's the potential damage if it's exploited? This information helps us assign risk levels to each vulnerability, which is crucial in prioritizing remediation efforts. After documenting our findings, it's time to report them. Reporting is where we translate our technical observations into actionable insights. This report is meant for various stakeholders, from tech-savvy IT teams to non-technical management. Therefore, it needs to strike a balance between technical details and high-level summaries. Let's say we're reporting our earlier example of the SQL injection vulnerability. Our report would highlight the vulnerability, explain its potential impact, and suggest remediation measures. It would detail how we found it, how we exploited it, and how serious the consequences could be. But it would also summarize these details in a way that anyone could understand the gravity of the situation. In essence, a detailed report is more than a list of vulnerabilities. It's a roadmap to improving an organization's security posture. It not only pinpoints the weaknesses, but also provides directions to strengthen the defenses. And that's why it's so crucial to the penetration testing process. A detailed report not only highlights vulnerabilities, but also guides the remediation process. Identifying vulnerabilities is only half the battle. The real challenge lies in addressing these vulnerabilities and making sure they're entirely remediated. This is where remediation guidance comes into play. Think of remediation guidance as a roadmap to recovery. It's a detailed plan that outlines the steps necessary to patch software, update configurations, and implement security best practices to mitigate the identified risks. For instance, if a SQL injection vulnerability was discovered during the penetration test, the remediation plan might involve updating the web application's code to prevent such injections, along with implementing input validation and parameterized queries to further secure the database. However, it's not enough to simply implement these changes and hope for the best. It's crucial to verify that these remediation efforts have indeed been successful. This is where the importance of follow-up assessments comes in. Follow-up assessments are like a second round of penetration testing. They confirm that previously identified vulnerabilities have been adequately addressed and ensure that no new weaknesses have been inadvertently introduced in the process of remediation. If, for example, a company has patched a software to address a known vulnerability, a follow-up assessment will test this patch to ensure it has indeed eliminated the vulnerability and hasn't opened up any new security gaps. But remember, security is not a one-time task, but an ongoing process. The landscape of cybersecurity is ever-changing, with new threats emerging every day. Hence, continuous improvement is key. Insights gained from the penetration test and subsequent remediation efforts should be used to refine security policies, procedures, and technical controls. For instance, if the penetration test revealed employees clicking on phishing links, an organization might decide to enhance its security awareness training. If the test found vulnerabilities in the network segmentation, the company might opt to improve this aspect of its infrastructure. With proper remediation and continuous improvement, a system can be made more robust against future attacks. The goal is not just to fix current vulnerabilities, but to build a stronger, more secure system that can withstand the evolving challenges of cybersecurity. Penetration testing is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. This is a key takeaway we've emphasized throughout our journey into the world of ethical hacking. We've walked you through the crucial steps, from defining the scope to the follow-up assessments, all aimed at strengthening your security posture. Let's recap the significant points. We started with scope definition, where you outline the systems, networks, and applications to be tested. After that comes reconnaissance, the stage for gathering information about the target environment. Then we proceeded to vulnerability analysis, where potential weaknesses are identified. The next phase, exploitation, is where we attempt to breach the system using identified vulnerabilities. This step is followed by post-exploitation, where we assess the extent of compromise and how deep the breach could go. Documentation and reporting are essential steps. They involve recording the process, vulnerabilities exploited, and potential impact. This information is used to create a detailed report presented to the organization's stakeholders. It's important to remember that the value of a penetration test is largely determined by the actionable insights that come out of it. After reporting, we offer remediation guidance, providing detailed instructions on how to address and remediate the identified vulnerabilities. This step is followed by a follow-up assessment to verify that the remediation efforts have been successful and that no new vulnerabilities have been introduced. Lastly, we believe in continuous improvement. The insights gained from the penetration test should be used to improve security policies, procedures, and technical controls. Penetration testing is not about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about identifying weak spots and turning them into areas of strength. It's a proactive approach to security, one that seeks to prevent breaches before they occur, protecting your organization's data, reputation, and bottom line. So, when was the last time you tested your system's security?